All right, welcome back. Today we're going to go over something that I've been meaning to ever since the When Will It End tarot reading video. If you want the shorter, condensed version of what I'm going to say, Tyrone Magnus, who I cited in the Revival program, has released a video on why he bans people from his YouTube comment section. And I'll put a link to that here, because everything that he said, I'm pretty much going to say. I don't ban people for disagreeing with me. You can disagree with me all you want. But when you misrepresent what I'm saying and you don't know what you're talking about and you do it in a way that's disrespectful, then you're going to get banned. I banned about a dozen people off of that one video. And I don't want to have to disable comments altogether, but I may have to. And we'll get to some of these comments here in a moment. I had deleted some before I was like, no, I should probably screenshot them and use them for a mailbag. A terrible, horrible mailbag. And we usually don't have this kind of a problem. For the most part, our comment section is pretty good. But for some reason, and I know the reason, we'll get to that in a moment as well, that particular video had sparked more negative, disrespectful comments from people who don't know what the hell they're talking about more than anything else I've ever done. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed because I expect better from my listeners. And I hold you to a higher standard than to react with such polarized political opinion, as unfortunately that's what this pandemic has become. That's what people have devolved it into. Politics. It's no longer about saving lives. It's now about political agenda. The left want to keep everything shut down for as long as they can to hurt Trump, and the right wants everything to open to help him, where truth and common sense lie somewhere in between. So let's get into why a lot of people didn't know what they were talking about when it came to that particular video. That video, along with most of my videos, was almost a month old before it was released on YouTube. It was released on Patreon and Subscribestar first, as part of supporters' early access. I had recorded that video in early April and released it on Patreon and Subscribestar on April 10th. This is back at a time when nobody knew what was happening, and most people were wondering when they were going to be able to find toilet paper again. Panic buying was at its peak, store shelves were empty, and nobody knew how long this would last. There were no conspiracy theories at that time. There were no protests. There were no people freaking out to reopen. Not in early April. But with my prediction date drawing near, which we'll get to in a moment, I decided that I would release that video onto YouTube before that date passed us by. Which, looking back, I probably should have let the date pass because then it would have got people to think critically. Well, it's already past this date. How could he make a prediction? Unless this video was made a while ago. Oh, maybe then it would have been more clear? Because people thought that I had just recorded and released it right then, which would be an honest mistake that I would have trouble faulting them for. However, if your entire foundation is faulty, then everything you build upon that foundation is also faulty. Their false assumption that I recorded it in early May instead of early April means that they were acting on misinformation, didn't know what the hell they were talking about, and those who were disrespectful ended up getting banned. There's no respectful way to call someone a sheep. Oh, Frater's just under the influence of the mainstream media. You had the same information I had back in early April. There were no protests. There were no ridiculous conspiracy theories. And yes, they are ridiculous because even now, don't sit there and try to pretend that you have information that the rest of us do not have. Because you have no knowledge. You have no first-hand experience. You are not Dr. Fauci. Odds are you are not anyone of importance on the front lines of fighting this pandemic. You are only parroting what you've heard, your favorite political propaganda, what someone else has told you, not what you know. And if that pisses some people off, well, then so be it. maybe they need it. They certainly deserve it. Because look, the highlight of that video should have been that I made a successful tarot prediction as to when we would start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, when things would start to reopen. And it was a successful tarot prediction made back in early April that on or around May 5th, that we would start to see some shift towards normalcy. And then a while after I had made the prediction, they announced that some businesses around here would start to reopen on May 4th. And I was able to even get my hair cut that day. I was the first one in. Now, depending on what area you were in, you may still be under lockdown. But since there was a reopening in my area at that time, and I'm the one doing the reading, I have to count it as a prediction fulfilled. Much like when I predicted that there would be a run on toilet paper and other items right before it happened, which many people were grateful to me for at that time. But the prediction should have been the highlight. I hear somebody that gets it. I'm impressed that you made an actual prediction. So many in this community are hesitant to. I hope you are right. Yes, because when you make a prediction, you're putting your entire reputation on the chopping block. The only way of not looking like a fool is if you get it right. But I had enough faith in my ability with the tarot and astrology to make that prediction, which then came to pass, at least for me. Others may be in an area that's going to take a lot longer to recover. So out of everyone, only one guy appreciated that I put my entire reputation on the line. So don't expect any tarot readings from me anytime soon. If people aren't interested in them, then I'm not going to do them. I'm fairly certain a lot of people would have pointed it out had I gotten it wrong. And this is why people don't do predictions. They get it right, nobody cares. They get it wrong, everybody cares. Okay, so that's my little rant. So let's get into some of these messages on this special nut job edition of the mailbag. Jesus Christ, you're falling for this fake stuff? I thought you could see. Guess not. Remember, this is a comment on a video in which I made a successful prediction almost a month ahead of time. I thought you could see. Guess not. Yeah, well, I see you getting banned. Maybe you should have also. Yes, there apparently are some fools out there who believe that this entire pandemic is fake, that it's all make-believe, that no one's really dying. Now, I don't know anyone who's died from it personally, but I do have friends who do, and they are not the kind of people who would just make that up. So when they say they've lost someone, I do believe them. Just the latest conspiracy theory and a long line of them without any evidence to back it up. Would you take a vaccine if they came out with one? And if you would, do you think it should be mandatory? Probably not to either one of those. No to the mandatory. I think people should decide for themselves. As for the vaccine, there would also have to be some sort of other treatments for it. And then you don't want to be the first one to test it. You want to see how other people do. It's not something I would want to beta test. It's kind of like the flu in that the only time I ever get it is when I take the flu shot. Otherwise, I never get the flu. And I don't think COVID's something I want to get. So I would probably hold off on that, at least until I was confident that it wasn't going to make me sick. So is 5G microwaves, because I've seen plenty of doctors warn and city councils vote over this year's before it came out. I am the wrong person to ask. I am not a cell technology expert. I've heard things as well, but I haven't seen any proof yet to back it up. Look, any energy that you're beaming through your body probably isn't a good idea. We have TV, we have radio, we have satellite, and cell phone tech all beaming through us at any given moment. If I had to take a wild guess, I would say that it's probably not good for us. But that's exactly what it would be, a guess, because I don't have any data or evidence to back that up. Kind of difficult for a regular person to prove, but it's probably not the best for you. I would say areas with the least amount of electromagnetic interference and energy waves are probably the best places to be long term. Love your vids, much appreciated, but you sound like a sheeple who's been rocked to sleep by the news channels. And it sounds like you just been banned. Yeah, you remember this guy back before the pandemic even hit the U.S. saying, oh man, look at all these sheep believing that this thing's going to come here and disrupt everything. Now, neither do I. In fact, I don't remember anyone back then or in early April saying any of these lame conspiracy ideas. Y'all were too worried about wiping your own ass to care about anything else. So do you see how these people don't know what the hell they're talking about? Do you see how their entire premise is faulty? Because they don't even realize when the video was made? Shocking to hear that someone as wise as you is buying into the fear-mongering. There is no virus. Whole thing is a hoax. You of all people should know this. And you of all people should know I don't do conspiracy theories. Have I not told you to stay away from conspiracy theories? They'll turn your brain to mush. I expected more from you, and you failed. Again, there was nobody saying any of this conspiracy hoax stuff at the beginning of April. Nobody. The only hoax is you trying to pass yourself off as knowledgeable, as if you have some kind of secret inside information because Alex Jones or Glenn Beck or somebody told you so. I don't know where you people are getting this hoax stuff anyway, nor do I care. If you want to go out and be a walking petri dish with no common sense, be my guest. As long as you keep the hell away from me. You know, you elect all these leaders, and then when a crisis occurs, you don't want to listen to the leaders, which is the reason you elected the leaders in the first place. If you don't like their decision, well then vote them out when the time comes. But you should still abide by their orders in the meantime, however draconian they may seem. I know some states are worse than others, because it's not just all about you. It's supposed to be to reduce the spread. If it's taking longer in your area, maybe it's because people are still running around spreading the damn disease. I've seen the pictures of people crowding on the beaches with no protection at all. I've seen the video of people having a huge pool party down in the Ozarks in my state. They all deserve what they get. Should people be allowed to do that? Well, it's not that cut and dry. I mean, look, I believe in personal freedom, but I also believe in personal responsibility, and part of that responsibility is to make sure that you're not unknowingly going around spreading it to others, not going around causing others harm, and uncaringly so. I think the right course of action is to open everything back up in stages as planned, and those reopened businesses taking measures to help ensure the public safety. Wow, I didn't think you would fall for the pandemic trick. Well, I didn't think you would fall for the conspiracy trick. So you're banned.
You know what? You're getting the ban hammer!
For life, even. Because you, sir, are the worst of the worst. Acting like there's all kinds of pandemic tricks, like you shouldn't fall for a pandemic because they happen all the time. Let me guess, the 1918 Spanish flu was another pandemic trick, right? Didn't really happen. Get out of here. You're not even intelligent enough for the content that I teach here. Not if you really believe your own BS.
You're never allowed to talk to me again, or my friends. You're banned forever, okay? You're banned. Banned, 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 banned.
So, I mean, what's even the conspiracy here? What's the fake part? What's the hoax? They're trying to control us, man. To do what? Not go outside? The same people who complain that it's all corporate and consumerism and commercialism then have conspiracies about how they want to shut everything down and not make any money. Now, how does that make sense? Now, it's all become political. I said way back before there was even a single case in the United States that the only thing that can beat Trump in this coming election cycle was the pandemic. Because standing presidents who have a great economy tend not to lose re-election. And if something broke out here and destroyed the economy, well, now he's going to have a tougher time. And it's very difficult to stop something that's airborne. And look, I get it. I want to reopen everything too. I want to go back to the way things were as well. But we got to be smart about it. We have to take our time and precautions in doing it. Look, I'm a Capricorn sun sign. Everything we do is cautious. So why would anyone at all be surprised that I would err on the side of better safe than sorry? Does the media overblow and overstate everything and sensationalize everything? Of course they do. Of course they've blown this out of proportion. But as a Capricorn, I'm like, better safe than sorry. It's no secret that I'm not a fan of the mainstream media. I'm the last person to believe everything they tell you. In fact, I'm not even listening to the media. I just don't watch them. I'm paying attention to the map. Did the numbers go up or did they go down? That's what I pay attention to. Are the numbers fudged? Well, maybe. I know that in my area, a lot of them account for people who are trapped inside nursing homes where they've had an outbreak. That's also where a lot of the deaths have happened. But not all of them. There's still people out there who have it. And we just have to trust that in this insane, incompetent, and inconsiderate world, they're not going to go around and spread it by refusing to wear a mask, wash their hands, etc. Human nature is not difficult to figure out. If you're going to put your trust in society at large, I have a feeling you're going to be sorely disappointed. And I don't mean to sound not hopeful, but I'm just keeping it real with you. When the number of new cases stop going up, level off, or at least become infrequent, then I would say that's a good time to maybe not be as cautious. That's just common sense to me. I've never seen so many people just argue against basic common sense and personal safety. But then again, a lot of people hate themselves. They have emotional blockages, and they're quite self-destructive. But look, people believe what they want to believe. Everybody's saying something different. Fox News is saying something different from CNN. You got these other doctors saying something from another doctor. I mean, here's a doctor saying that the death rate's closer to 20%. And that a second wave will be coming, and it'll be much worse.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Doc Vaughn. I'm a world-famous bariatric surgeon. If you're new to me, let me prove it to you. First of all, this is my degree for the Austin, Texas A&M University. I went to med school there. That's my doctor. That's my middle name, right? And then lastly, after you become a doctor, you have to do a residency. So here's my surgical diploma. I went to Christus St. Joseph's in general surgery, finished in 2005. Now, why do I show you my diplomas? Because there's a lot of people out there that are, with social media is amazing, but everybody has a platform, and you don't know who to listen to, what to believe, etc., right? If you're going online and you're leaving nasty comments, and what's the purpose of that? Is that the country that we built? Right? And just because, and I get it, man. Like, you're scared, you're frustrated, you're confused, you don't know who to believe, who not to believe. Even if you don't, if you want to believe conspiracy theories, if you want to believe that these numbers are artificial, just sit down and play with the numbers a little bit. You're not going to like them. You don't like the percentages. What if, and this will happen, I promise you. In about 3 months, this number is going to settle around 12%. And people are going to say, Dr. Wong, what about your video that said the death rate was 20%? How do you feel now? I'm like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. This is May 25th. Based on the numbers that are available, the death rate, the actual death rate, if you catch coronavirus, if you come down with COVID-19, the actual death rate is between 18 to 24%. I just said 20%. Pick right in the middle. Pick in the middle somewhere. And I'm okay with having a range, because we don't know the exact numbers. You're right, Uncle Billy. It's a conspiracy. They are inflating the deaths. I get it. They don't have enough testing. They have too much testing. Whatever you're... Fine, Aunt Sally. Sit down, plug in the numbers. You won't like them. It doesn't matter. If you understand how to actually calculate it correctly. Don't be one of these idiots. Only 100,000 deaths out of 300 million people, and we shut down the country. Dude, you just said that because it wasn't your grandmother. You just shared that meme because It wasn't your uncle. And you're more selfish about your job and your money. And I get it. It's important. It's important that we pay. But what are we supposed to do? My last warning for you is this. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse this fall. There's a bigger wave coming. It's going to be much more devastating. I'll tell you that in the next video.
Right? So not all the doctors are saying the same thing, so you got to pick and choose which doctor you want to believe. So that's why I watch the numbers. Because everybody's saying something different. Everybody's polarized. No one can get along. They've made it all political, as they do with everything they can. But I'm not willing to risk myself and those I care about based on some half-cocked theories and a media flame war. No, I'm watching the numbers. And I would advise that you do the same. When you listen to the media, they're wrong more often than they're right. I mean, they said it wouldn't even come here. They said it was fine to go out and celebrate Mardi Gras. Then New Orleans got hit really hard because they told you it was fine to go out and party. Only a fool would put their health and their very life in their hands. No, think for yourself. Watch the numbers. Watch the rate of infection. Well, what if it's all a lie? Well, I'd rather believe a lie and be alive than to think it's all a hoax and get sick and possibly die. But also understand that you're listening to someone here whose life really hasn't changed all that much and can hold out a really long time. I actually save money and can live off of it for years if I wanted to. I don't really have to go anywhere because I work from home. And as a Pisces rising, the solitude does not bother me, not as much as it would other signs. And I understand that most people have a hard time handling that. They're not used to that. They're losing their minds after only a couple months. Heck, a couple weeks into it, people were freaking out. And it would be amusing to me if it wasn't just so sad. I mean, what would people do if there was a disease spreading around that had a 100% mortality rate? Or 99%? Would people stay home then? You would think so, but never underestimate the stupidity of the masses. And people say, well, it's just old people and people with pre-existing conditions that have to worry. So just keep them contained and let us run around and do what we want to do. And that's not how containment works. That's not going to work. That's people trying to find a way to be an exception to the rule and not do their part so it doesn't affect them, which is why this thing is continuing on. It's why we're still talking about it, because it's not going to affect me, and then they catch it and they spread it to other people before they even know they have it in most cases, because the symptoms don't show up immediately. When people figure out that the numbers are being greatly inflated on this flu, then you'll see something dangerous. It's all a crock. I won't wear a mask, and I sure as hell won't take their vaccine. Maybe the numbers are, maybe they aren't. I'm not in charge of the numbers, and neither are you. We only see what we're shown. And until those numbers go down, if you're out parading around without a mask and just being a stubborn SOB, then you, my friend, are part of the problem. And maybe if you and those like you had worn your mask, this thing would have been over already. All everyone had to do was just stay home for over 2 weeks, the incubation cycle. But instead, we got all the Kevins running around out there without their mask on, hacking and coughing on people. I wear my mask when I'm out. You know why? Because I'm not an idiot.
And the panhammer goes down and he's out here and the crowd goes wild! Yeah!
And before people say, oh, that masks don't help you, well, the mask that I use, you have to breathe through the filter of the mask. It's not one that just filters the air you're breathing out. It's actually one that filters the air coming in. And I was at the grocery store about a week or so ago, and I was in line. Now, this line was so long, it went back all the way down an aisle of the store. So you have to understand that a lot of these store policies aren't really for the customer's protection. They're for the employees' and workers' protection, because they're trying to keep you all the hell away from them as much as possible until you're ready to check out, one by one by one. In the meantime, they crowd you in an aisle with everybody else. which is less than ideal. But there's a guy in front of me who doesn't have a mask on, but his wife does. And he's the one that's coughing and hacking. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Yeah, that's this guy, right? Doesn't make no sense that his wife would wear a mask and he doesn't, because they're both going to go to the same place, unless she's wearing it because he won't, and she's wearing it for protection from him because he's too proud or delusional to wear one himself. While he's fools. And it's always the ones that are doing that are the ones that are always refusing to wear the mask. Well, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'll just cough all over you. Put a funk cloud in this aisle so that you have to walk through it. There's no scientific evidence for any contagious virus causing diseases. What? Okay, Mr. Science. That's like a blind man saying there's no evidence that light exists, because I haven't seen it. Remember when I told you a long time ago that magic attracts a lot of nutcases? It just does. I wasn't kidding. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for that evidence as they keep piling up the dead. Alex Jones was right. About what? I mean, look, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But you will have to be more specific on what you speak of. Because I'm sorry, I'm not up to date with my Alex Jones. And even less so now that he's been thrown off the platform. Which I don't agree with, by the way. I believe he has a right to say what he wants to say. You know, I'm not for censorship. As such, I really don't have any idea what you're referring to. But considering the source, it's probably not so. Viruses do not exist. And neither do you.
You just got blocked, bitch!
You don't have to worry about any more misinformation or doctors downplaying the virus. YouTube is censoring them. Okay, but what does that have to do with my prediction? What does that have to do with my tarot reading? And why would you think that that's what I worry about? Because I'm not worried about that. It sounds to me that that's what you're worried about. Stop projecting your fears onto me. Now, I'm not banning you yet, but you're getting close. You're riding a little high in the crotch. N95 filters particles as small as 0.3 microns. Corona size is 0.125 microns. Well, I don't know if those numbers are accurate, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt, and let's just say that that's the case. The mask that I use filters 99% down to 0.1 microns. So the one I use is good. The thing is, based on the statistics that they don't ever seem to tell you about, it's not even the threat they've made it out to be. 80% of cases are moderate. In fact, they tell the vast majority of people to stay home. Now, I'm not a doctor, but if you're telling someone to stay home and essentially sleep it off, then that says something about the severity of it. No, they tell you to stay home because they don't want the hospitals filling up and bringing the healthcare system to its knees. They only want those who need to be hospitalized at the hospitals. And then there's the death stats, which shows that roughly 90% of all deaths are those 70 and older or those with pre-existing conditions. Another stat was one about those 18 and younger. The death statistic was virtually 0%. Yes, but they can carry it to those who are 70 and older and with pre-existing conditions. And that age group is most likely to be the ones to do it, as they don't like to listen to authority the way it is. I have a pre-existing condition. I've had double pneumonia before, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It is not something you want to experience. Trust me on that. And quite frankly, it's not something that I want to risk getting again. And especially because Kevin thinks he's better than the rest of us and doesn't have to wear a mask. Remember, this all started in one place with one person and has spread around the globe. It only takes one to screw it up for everyone else. I mean, look, here's the map. Now, it's not so bad in my area, but there's still a few thousand people that are confirmed with it. In other places like New York, it's really bad. But, I mean, you look at the map, there's red dots everywhere. It's all over the place. Maybe if you're part of Montana or maybe in Yellowstone National Park, maybe out in the desert in Nevada, maybe then you could keep away from it. But, I mean, it's everywhere. You just have to assume that everyone has it including yourself, so that you don't spread it to others. And if everybody did that, all of this would be over. It's only the people that are being stubborn that are prolonging all this. And I think their behavior, as well as the protesters, are less about the pandemic and more about them running out of money, which is a whole other part to this thing. And I sympathize with that, but I want this thing to be knocked out now instead of having to shut down later on this fall or for a second wave that's even worse than the first. To me, it's better to just get it over with. Okay? So I hope that you all learned a very important lesson this week, which is to always remember that the videos are released on YouTube about a month after they were on Patreon and Subscribestar first, including this one. I'm sure that when it's released on YouTube finally, that people will think that, hey, he just recorded this at the end of June instead of the end of May. It's those assumptions that got you banned and made me point out that you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so it's important to remember that. Now, if you don't want to risk it, I would advise signing up over at Patreon and Subscribestar to get the early access, and then you will know for certain because you would have already watched the video a month in advance. And it would surely make you look far less insane. That's patreon.com/mindandmagick and subscribestar.com/Frater Xavier. For those of you who weren't banned, if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. It helps others find it. Don't know why they would, it's just some people enjoy a good rant. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and even have a BitChute channel as well. I'm Frater Xavier for this Nutjob edition of the Mailbag, and I'll see you soon. Take care.